My name is Johan and I'm part of the team here at Pond. I wanted to welcome you to today's demo session with Dan from b.world. Before I turn it over to Dan, I wanted to quickly remind everyone that if you're interested in learning more about this solution, we'd encourage you to send Dan a Pond message. You can do this by logging into your Pond account, then navigating to the b.world provider page, and then you can click send a message from there. From there, you should be able to get your question answered or request a one-on-one meeting. And as a reminder, we're going to put Pond credits in your account for every meeting arranged through the platform. Without further ado, let me turn it over to Dan.
Very nice of you. Thank you for the intro. It's good to be here with you in the pond, as I'm sure you all say. And I just want to express our gratitude for the invitation to participate and reiterate how much we believe in what you and the team at Pond are doing. So thank you for trying to find new ways to bring people together in service of this planet we call home and the species that live on it. So we're very happy to be part of the community, and I'm excited to spend a little time talking about b.world today and our vision for program design and impact. So we're gonna just take a really quick look at what Johan mentioned. Is if you want to go on to the Pond platform and find us, you just go to the vendors page and type in b.world, and you're going to see us pop up, and then that's where you can find us from a messaging perspective. So please, as was mentioned before, that's the best way to look us up. Once you get into our provider page, there'll be some links to our website and other things like that you can explore. And this is the b.world website where you land, where you can get through the registration process and ultimately log in, assuming you've signed up. One of the main reasons why we want you to get to us through Pond is because we have a special discount code that gives you a significantly extended trial when you go through Pond. So as opposed to the 30-day trial, you're going to get a lot more time than that if we engage through Pond. So again, please go that direction. So b.world. b.world is our organization's manifestation of a vision we have about mobilizing the global impact community's capacity for progress. And we've tried to do that with b.world by combining a number of different key things that program teams do in a single solution that's easy to use and easy to share with all of your stakeholders. And so b.world tries to bring together those key features around designing impact or change-related programs, the project management capabilities that we all need to manage the micro work, as well as the impact management or data tracking and charts and results, and then make all that accessible through a storytelling engine so that all the work that you do can be shared with others, because we know, and Pond is such a great example of this, we're better together, and the community itself is really the place where we're going to be able to make progress happen faster, which we all know is important. So to get into b.world, you're going to register, or if you're coming back, you'll just log in straight from the site. The registration process is really easy, name and email, just like you'd expect, a little bit of ping pong with your email address, and then you'll be in. And once you're in the application, for the first time, it's going to look like this. It's going to look a little bit lonely. And essentially, this is the blank canvas wherein all of that stuff that you've been doing in Excel and PowerPoint and paper for designing and implementing programs now has a new home inside of b.world. And within the application, you can define projects, you can manage the work with tasks, you can organize your stakeholders, and a number of other features we're going to see today. And ultimately, it's all going to lead to this really core thing that's unique about b.world, which is the storytelling capability of the platform. So the couple of things I want to run through just from a team admin perspective is we don't want to be in the way of your work. We want to be completely out of the way so that you're in complete control of your data, as well as the people that have access to the platform. So there's two really important things you can do as a team admin, and you're a team admin if you're the first person that signed up. And that first thing is, if you come up to your profile, you'll be able to add and subtract people from the application. So the team admin has the ability to add new members, and all you have to do is just give them a name and an email. They'll get an invite, and then they go through their same registration process you went through. Through the Pond discount that we offer, this is a place you can literally add unlimited users during the trial period. So you can be a small organization with just a couple of people using b.world for program design through storytelling, or you could be a multinational institution with 1,000 people. operating in 35 or 40 different countries around the world, you'll get that access during the course of the trial period as well. So that team admin is totally self-service. The other thing that you can do as a team admin is you have the ability to define kind of your, what some people might call an impact framework. And within b.world, it starts with goals, which are sort of the societal level impact level capabilities. And then it goes down through objectives, activities, indicators, and dimensions. And this is a place where you can either insert and add your own framework, or you can pull in frameworks from the outside world so that when you go implement projects, you don't have to recreate everything from scratch every time. So think of this as your template library for your impact model, impact framework, outcome to evidence framework, results framework, logic framework. Pick the terminology that you like. We know there's a lot of different ones out there in the marketplace. But this is all about saving you and your team time and ultimately enabling consistent comparison and consistent accessibility to data and information across the platform, whether you're implementing in multiple locations or differential programs that are measuring similar indicators across those different constructs. So that's the basic background. And really what I want to do now is talk you through how can a team gain time in their day and significant transparency from the ability to use a platform like b.world. So we're going to talk through projects. We're going to talk through things like whiteboards and strategy, and then we're going to ultimately end up taking a look at storytelling and how the platform brings all of that work together in one place. Our co-founder, Lena, came up with a great analogy about, why would you put all the work into a system like b.world and put the projects in there and define your indicators and track your results? And the great analogy she came up with was, you don't draft your emails on paper and then transfer them into your email application and then send them. You should be able to draft and do the work in one place and then be able to engage with your stakeholders in a single place. So think of b.world as that place where it keeps you away from those tools that are holding you back from bringing everything together in a transparent way and saving time so you can do more engagement. So in b.world, it all starts with the project. And so we're going to take a look at a sample project here called Preserving Puerto Rican Traditions. And this project is already built in the application. I designed it specifically for this discussion because it's pretty easy to get your hands around. And our company is partially based in Puerto Rico as well. So this is near and dear to our heart. But let's say that your organization was interested in ensuring that Puerto Rican cultural traditions were going to be maintained over time. One of the challenges that Puerto Rico faces is that there's been a lot of people that have left because of hurricanes or economic challenges or opportunities in other places and so forth. So if you're a nonprofit based in Puerto Rico trying to preserve those Puerto Rican traditions, you can come in and create a project like this one that is specifically defined to build that framework and track the results and share the results of that specific initiative. So when you create a project like this, you really get some basic project information, like a name and a summary. And then you can also organize this according to your specific programs and program areas. Think of these as like your folders. And you can tag it with specific items as well, which helps you sort of sort and filter that information later on when you're going to need it for things like storytelling. So you get to basically define the project at the high level. And the project overview page answers a few of the really important questions like when, where, why, and with who or with whom are you actually doing this work. So here you get a chance to put in the dates of the project, the location of the project. We've distilled things down into what we call a challenge and a solution statement. Think of these as like your tweet length version, like your elevator pitch, so to speak, of like why is this worth doing? And what do we think we need to do to bring about a particular change, whether it's societal, environmental, or otherwise. So you'll notice if I pop up in the challenge statement, everywhere in b.world, you're going to find this embedded guidance about, like what makes a good challenge statement. And you can just type out your challenge statement here. Same thing with the proposed solution. And then another key part is like, well, who are we going to do this work with? We're going to maybe have volunteers or donors or project staff or other stakeholders that we need to keep involved. In this project, we're actually going to be engaging schools and community centers, and we've got corporate donors and sponsors are going to help us get the word out. So here we're able to add all those people and organizations that are engaging with us kind of in like iPhone simple CRM is maybe a way to think about it if CRM is a familiar term for you. And that becomes important because if I scroll back up just a little bit, you can also see in the stakeholders tab all of the places where an individual and organization is collaborating with you, and that helps your team ensure that you know that those different touch points are happening across different implementations of your initiatives and so forth. So, and we've also got this really novel concept around things, because a lot of causes are environmentally focused, right? Like, let's say you're cleaning up beaches, or you're testing water quality in rivers. Those ideas don't fit neatly into people and organizations. So for organizations that have those types of causes and focus areas, you can use this things capability. And this will be a huge time saver when we get to data collection later on. So really worth doing. So our goal here is to engage with these organizations to bring about an effort to preserve Puerto Rican cultural traditions, really driven by the need or the problem statement that a lot of those cultural traditions are leaving the island with the people that have left the island. So we've got our problem statement, and we have a high level idea about how we might coordinate with educational institutions and other K-12 environments to help young individuals in Puerto Rico, get exposed to these types of traditions. But maybe we need to actually get into the detail about how we're going to bring about that change to make sure we're asking the right questions. So what we've done in b.world to help with that is we've developed this capability called whiteboards, because a lot of people think in terms of diagrams and pictures. I'd say the most common place where you might define a framework like that is in PowerPoint with some clip art. Some people might call this the theory of change of a program or a results framework. But our thought here, after really learning from people in the market, was, that strategy piece, that ideation should not be separated from the implementation. And you'll see how that kind of key feature plays out in a minute. So in the whiteboard, your team can come in and launch the project whiteboard. And in the project whiteboard, they're able to have a near infinite canvas where they can drag those key items straight onto the page, as I've done here, and then essentially draw out the way that you intend to bring about that change. So here you see I brought a goal onto the page just to prove to you that it's all drag and drop. I can move it around. These are my objectives, these are my activities, and these are my indicators. This is a very simply structured project. We recognize that bringing about change is not simple, but this is really just for demo purposes today. So the idea here is that we've got one primary goal of preserving Puerto Rican culture and traditions, and we're going to have 3 interim objectives that help us bring about outcomes to achieve that overall impact level goal. So we're going to have schools. One of our objectives is that schools will teach the history of Puerto Rico in the context of cultural traditions. And to try to achieve that is we're going to develop and deliver workshops to the schools, and we're going to track the number of schools that we actually do that with. So you can see that we've got kind of a quantifiable output that's helping, that's being delivered by a specific activity that's going to help us achieve a specific objective that's going to contribute to the achievement of the overall goal. And we've got a couple of other tranches that are going to help us achieve that too. Because there's a lot of different terminology around these types of concepts in the market, and b.world, we've tried to make it really easy to know what's what and how to relate these things together based on sort of everything we've learned from operating in the market and engaging directly with people that do this work every day. So, and you've also got shapes as well, so you can kind of decorate this canvas and be able to diagram out what you think you need to do to bring about the change. A couple of other really neat things about this are that you can download it if you need to. So if you've got to drop this in an email or one of your collaboration platforms to discuss it, you can do that. We also have this feature that we call Insights that allows you to actually incorporate narrative into any part of b.world. So here's a couple examples that I put in there. Like when we're designing the program, we had this discussion about how we believe that engaging with schools is key to our success because of this and that and the other. And then that's part of our hypothesis. So you can actually record this right inside of this component of the whiteboard, and you're going to see where this pays off when we get to storytelling later on. So, and the third thing that you can do, which you won't see here right on the screen, is you can click a single button and it will generate the entire log frame for you. So you don't have to go from PowerPoint to Excel or paper, into another database. b.world actually has the link directly connected from the whiteboard straight to the log frame. So you get a visual view of your program as you imagine it, and then you can change and adapt it as time goes on. And then you actually get the log frame, which is a more structured view of the actual implementation itself. So in the log frame, you actually get to go further with defining the different components of the project than you do in the whiteboard. The whiteboard's really focused on the design. And the log frame is really where the work gets done and where the results are going to get tracked. So think of this as like we're now moving into implementation. So the major thing that you get to do here is you actually can define indicators. So let's say I had that number of participants from our school objective. Here I can come in and actually define the indicator, talk about the data collection method. You can see these red warnings here, and I picked this one on purpose with those warnings because it's not going to let me change it because I've already tracked data against this indicator. You can define the reporting frequency, the type of data, the units of measure, and a variety of other key things here too to make sure that you're really going to be effective and accurate and honest about the data. The system's really going to help you be great at collecting data and not being so worried about whether you're doing it right or not. So there's a lot of capabilities in here, a lot of logic that help you stay on track with keep getting good data results, because the data results are one of the key things you're going to use to demonstrate your progress and what you've learned in the course of implementing. So the indicator setup's really neat. There's 3 different types of indicators in the platform. One is ones that you just create inside the project like this. But let's say I want to add a new indicator. I can also go and just type forward, and you'll see that it's going to pop up indicators that exist in the app already. These are coming from that project elements library. So this makes it so I don't have to actually build out indicators that we use frequently or that we use often. And then, of course, and this is super important, you can also go straight to the SDGs or the Sustainable Development Goals, targets, and indicators and pick from any one of those. So in this case, we might say, for example, reduced inequality, and I'm just going to pick one of these and it'll take me all the way down to the specific Sustainable Development indicator that I want to tag to the project. One thing that's really different about b.world here is that it's an and with indicators, not an or. You can use project-specific indicators and add the SDG indicators if you need to utilize those indicators to be able to communicate to specific stakeholders in different languages about the way they see the world and so forth. So let's say that time's progressed, we designed our program, we've got a pretty good idea of how we think we're going to help preserve these Puerto Rican cultural traditions. And now we're starting to go out to the schools and teach about this context, specifically in that environment. And we're going to go do that for several months, and we're going to want to track the number of participants. So we have our indicator here specifically about the number of participants. And essentially what b.world has done is based on the timeline of the activities, the timeline of the project, and our indicator definition, is it actually builds the whole data table for you. So you don't have to be an Excel or a Google Sheet or Airtable or pivot table expert. It just does that work for you based on the definition of the indicator and the time over which you're going to track those results. So here we had 3 different reporting intervals. We track the overall number of participants. We're going to record based on gender or based on sex and on location where we've delivered those different activities. We can add a baseline and a target to that as well. And we can also, if we're looking at this data or pulling it in from third parties, we can actually attach those different documents right here as well. And as you saw on the whiteboard, we can add narrative insights directly to the side of the page just by clicking on that little icon for insights with the light bulb. So the other thing that b.world will do for you is it'll take that data and sort of take the guesswork out of making charts so that you don't have to become, a pivot table and charting expert as well. So it's going to build these charts for you with just the basics, but you can also have control over what the charts look like. Like maybe I want to stack the disaggregates to simplify it a little bit. I'm going to add the target and the baseline. Maybe I only want to report on the locations where we've delivered these workshops. Or maybe I just want to look at our kind of end line measurement specifically, and I can zoom straight into that as well. So you can download these also. It's just going to dump it down to specific formats that you can include in other apps. And you also get the chance to kind of flip between bar charts and line charts here too. So kind of a really neat interactive charting capability, all based off the data that's prefab for you based on your definition of indicators. So hopefully, you're able to kind of go from strategy into implementation, tracking results and visualizing it without all that work taking out of it, with all that work that you normally have to do. We've also got 3 project management capabilities that I'll go through kind of quickly here. One is that documents are really important. If you want to have a central repository for docs, you can upload project-related documents. And then here's those indicator documents that you saw when we were looking at the attendance tracking. We also have a drag and drop task board that allows you to do things like, hey, here's that workshop we were going to schedule at this specific location. And once Isabella completes this task, you can just come in and complete it, or you can just drag things around the screen. So really, really easy task management for the team within the context of this project. Really easy to create tasks too. Just click the plus sign and you're off and running. Any tool like this isn't going to be complete unless you can understand where the funds are being utilized. So we have a really simple budget capability where you can define different budgets and then track expenditures against them. In this case, you can see we're getting some of these funds are coming from a federal grant, others are coming from individual donations. And as a team, we can go in and log our expenses so that we know how much we have left to be able to spend to implement the rest of the change that we want to bring about, but also to ensure that that kind of social return on investment is included within the application as well. So as we were engaging with the market, we kind of started pushing down this path of like strategy, project management, implementation, results tracking. And one of the things that we kept hearing from folks was that, because you're so busy and we know how resource constrained most organizations are and trying to bring about an impact, it gets really hard to share the work with other people, right? And I saw an amazing statistic from the World Bank a couple of days ago, where the World Bank was reporting that there's 70+% of the reports that are developed, which are really detailed research reports, are never read by anybody, right? So there's all of this content that's really important that's getting out there and being made available so we can stand on the shoulders of those that are aside us or have become before us, so we can tee up the next generation that's going to come after us and make sure that this knowledge gets carried forward. But the challenge is we don't have time to dig into all those details, or maybe we don't have the specialized knowledge to specifically read those capabilities. But it turns out that throughout the course of at least human history, there's this kernel of knowledge sharing called stories that we've been using since the dawn of time. And b.world makes it possible for all of the team members to become great storytellers by making all that work that you did become easily accessible in a storytelling construct. So here inside this project, you can see that we got a few stories that have already been written. b.world offers 6 different story template types. I don't know about you, but I get stuck with writer's block. And so these different story types help you bring together the content for each of the types of stories that you might want to tell, or write your own story. So maybe you want to talk about a change in a participant's life, right? Good, bad, or otherwise. Maybe you want to share a major milestone that you've achieved with the people that have helped, fund the project, or your volunteers to keep them motivated and mobilized. Or talk about a partnership, a collaboration. Like Johan, we could do one of these with Pond and Threshold, right? Or just the general purpose, right? So that anybody who's new to your team, we know new people are coming and going all the time, why are you doing this is always there for anybody to access. And so I'll pull up a story that I've got kind of in draft mode here, just so we can get a sense of what these stories kind of look like. And so let's say, for example, we've been implementing this project, we're learning a lot, we're seeing a lot of results, and now it's time for us to bring together those key things that make a great story to share that with our stakeholders. And the key ingredients are things that are visual, things that are evidence-based, that demonstrate efficacy, and narrative. Like those are the 3 things that get dopamine to flow in human beings, which help us remember and help us carry those things forward to other people. So I've already partially built this out, but you can see that you can add a banner image, you can give it a title and add an author. Isabella from our team is the person that wrote this. Here, I just dropped in a picture of the main island in the Puerto Rican archipelago with a flag on it. You can put a logo up in the top left corner if this was your organization. And then you basically have 6 questions in that type of story that you can potentially answer. And for each question, you get to decide whether you want to skip it or answer it. And you get to decide what content you want to bring together to actually answer that question. The questions don't get displayed when you publish the story, by the way. Really what they're doing is helping you bring together the content in a way that narrates a compelling story that's going to mobilize people to act. So here you're going to say, describe where the project is happening, who lives there, etc. So I just put some text in for that one, and I just wrote this one freehand. That's pretty simple, and you can write as much text as you want. You can also change some different formats here. Like I might want to drop part of that out as a quotation to really highlight that text in the context of it and so forth. And you can do some specialized functions like drop a table in or do bullets and numbers and those sorts of things. So some formatting is there. The other thing you can do is, like, the second question is asking me, describe the problem this will or has addressed. We already answered that on the overview page, right? Because we had to talk about the challenge we're trying to overcome. So rather than having to rewrite that, I can just pop open this panel on the right-hand side and then drag and drop the challenge statement straight into the form, right? And it's going to pull in the text directly from there. And now I don't have to rewrite the thing again. Looks like I had a little bit of formatting in that. I may have a spelling error, so I, of course, can adjust it. But it gives me the ability to pull the content that we've already authored all the way through the project into a single pane. You can also do a few other things here too, right? Like maybe I don't want to answer this one, so I'm just going to skip that prompt and it's going to take that question away. And I can also pull in content from anywhere else where we've got narrative inside the project. I can search the content to say, like, I kind of need something that has the word decision in it, because I want to know when we made decisions. And I can actually pull up the narrative that I've tagged as decisions throughout the project to share, what we've learned from this effort itself. And I can just drag and drop those in. You can also embed videos directly from YouTube today. So you could just click on the insert video and then you use the embed function from YouTube so that it plays really well right inside the page. You can, if I delete this chart for a second, let's say we want to actually bring in one of the charts to show the results. So I'm going to just go and grab our number of participants chart that we looked at before. That's a little too busy for this kind of report, so maybe I'll just simplify that. But here I do want to include the baseline and target so we can see how we've done within the context of the project. And that looks good, so I'm going to just go down to the bottom and insert that chart as is. So I don't have to go recreate that or snapshot something and Photoshop it. I can just pull it straight from the live data within the application. And then once I kind of am happy with that, maybe I want to preview it a little bit and see what it's going to look like when it comes out. You can see it's sort of taking shape a little bit like a blog. I'm going to just pull this into a different browser window so you get a sense of, like, the system does a good job in the publishing console of making these work on other devices, right? It's kind of a mobile responsive page too. So the story, you don't have to worry about how the stories are going to look. And then when you're ready, all you have to do is click the publish button. You click that you got consent to be able to publish that content. We ask you to certify that because you're representing this content to potentially the outside world. And then once you publish it, you get to do one of two things. You get a shareable link that you can copy and send around to anybody that you like. Or you can, assuming that you have logins to Twitter, LinkedIn, or Facebook, you can post that story straight to one of those social networks directly from the application. So here, let's see if this is going to pop up. You can see my stories available there. I'm going to say I want to share this in a post, and I can just go ahead and share that story straight out from the application in a post on one of the social networks. And now I don't have to do that hop into another system, which is a huge time saver as well. So let's cancel that. And all of your stories, and this is one of the main things that kind of helps us get back to where we started in the beginning, is that all of your stories across all of your implementations come together in the Stories tab. So if you want to come and find out what have we done that's focused on traditions, you type in traditions and you can go through and look at all your projects and find those that are focused on traditions or health or women and girls or water or one of the sustainable development or anything else. And so you now have this diary of all of the work that you've done that's distributable to your stakeholders anywhere via those different channels. You've also got navigational items for tasks that cross-cut all of the projects. So you really get this full view of tasks that have been created by you or assigned by you, or everything if you want to see all the work that's going on across your implementations. You get the stakeholders tab, which I referenced earlier. So you can say, well, I want to know, wow, Adina's really engaged in a lot of different projects. She must be an amazing person that we get to do a lot of work with. And same thing with whiteboards as well. So these main navigational constructs on the left-hand side are really the place where everything kind of comes together in a single location. So that's a quick tour of b.world in its current form. I'm very happy to stop talking for a little bit and see if there are any questions that may have come up in the course of the discussion today. I see we've got a few folks and they may or may not have questions. And if they don't, then I'm going to share a couple of things that we're about to release to just tell you about where we're going in the not too distant future. So Johan, Does anybody put their hand up?
Not yet, but I was actually going to ask about what's ahead for you guys. So that's a great segue. So I'm going to start with that.
Yeah, awesome. There's a bunch of things we're focusing on, but there's two really big themes that we're working on specifically because this is what we've heard from the users of b.world today. b.world does a really good job of helping a team collaborate, right? And you can make that a really big team. It can be a small team. But one of the things that we've learned from our user base is that, let's say you have two different nonprofits, like one focusing on preserving cultural traditions, like the example we talked about by working with schools, and another one that's focused on doing a similar activity in that same environment. Like they might want to collaborate, right, on a project together. Maybe they're funded by someone to do something together. So you've got two organizations with their own initiatives, but maybe they're going to actually create a new project or program, or maybe they're already collaborating on something. So one of the things we're about to release is the ability for two different b.world teams to share projects with each other for those kind of collaborative implementation circumstances. It's also specifically geared towards foundations, funders, and those engaged in capacity building. So, let's say, for example, you're a private foundation and you're doing a capacity building program for a bunch of grantees that have innovative ideas for new programs or expanding existing programs. You can give them b.world and then they can share the project back with you so you can see what's going on and help support them and collaborate with them. They can share it with each other if they want to share log frames or theories of change with each other. So it's that idea of like, we're good at working within a team. Now we're about to be great working across the teams. And that's really core to our mission about kind of mobilizing the global impact community's capacity for progress. So you can't do that one team at a time. You got to be able to do it together. So that's about to come out. And then after that, we got another thing that we've begun to work on, which is about including the stakeholders, which has really been central to our strategy since the very beginning. It's where the name comes from. Like the B is about being, and you can't be if you're if you're alone. So it's sort of a progression of like team-based, collaboration-based, and then making sure that inclusivity is embedded in the product. The second big thing that's about to come out is this really, really cool comparative results feature, which I'm not demoing for today because it's not generally available, but imagine if you could go and look at participation rates across all your different projects and be able to summarize that and then include it in stories. That would be great for, pitching for new proposals or new funding, or, keeping your donors up to date about, hey, we're doing this in a bunch of different places. We want to do it in 5 more. Can you help us, right? All that kind of stuff kind of comes together when you can do that comparative results tracking. So we had a few other fun things up our sleeve, but those are the big ones that we're happy to share for today.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that. It's been a couple months since I've last seen the platform, and just the rate of trajectory that you guys have been on is just really, really impressive. So keep up the good work.
Thanks. We're learning every day, and from the people that are using it, and from ideas that are coming from our team and others. So we're like we're just trying to listen, and this is the result of that listening. So lots more to do, but we're happy with where we're starting.
Awesome. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No, well, one thing, I'll just say what I said at the beginning, which is I'm really grateful to be in Pond's company with you and Mitch and the rest of the team. And thank you for what you're doing. And I really hope that anybody that sees this will find us on Pond and that we get a chance to work together. So thank you so much. It's really a pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dan, for the partnership. Really appreciate it.
Cheers.
Have a good one.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks all.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.